Welcome back to In the Midst. Today we're going to change gears a little bit and talk about your in-laws. So this is coming from my heart, my personal experience, and just some things that I've learned. So I actually do not have a father-in-law, so this is going to be speaking about your mother-in-law, the relationship between a daughter-in-law and mother-in-law. My father, the man that would have been my father-in-law, passed away about 3 years before we got married. So I never was actually able to even meet him. I have met his brothers, and everyone says he was like them, just a great guy and all that. So I have an idea of what he would have been like, but I never got to meet him, sadly. So this might feel one-sided because I'm not addressing the role of the father-in-law. As you guys know here, that's not something that I typically address, is men and their roles and stuff like that anyway, so it's really nothing new. But at this point today, it is July 11th, 2022. My husband and I have been married 13 and a half years. And the first probably 7 years of our marriage, I did not get along with my mother-in-law. I had met her, known who she was before we got married. We never really, told anyone that we were dating, and everyone told my husband, she's a great girl. She's too young. You guys, you don't need to do that. So we never told anyone. So we never really had much of a relationship. And that was very hard. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. It took about 7 years for us to get to where we are now. And there was issues on both sides. So let's get into that. Exodus 20 verse 12 says, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth. Matthew 19:19, honor thy father and thy mother, and thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Ephesians 6:2, honor thy father and thy mother, which is the first commandment with promise. There is not an age given to these commands. If you're a child, you have a parent, you are to honor your parents. So maybe now you're thinking, my mother-in-law isn't my parent, so how does this apply? To which, yes, you are correct. However, let's take a look at Matthew 19:6. Wherefore they are no more twain, but one flesh. What therefore God hath joined together, let not man put asunder. Mark 10:8, and they twain shall be one flesh. So then they are no more twain, but one flesh. Genesis 2:24, Matthew 19:5, and Ephesians 5:31 also teach the concept of the man and wife being one flesh. So you are still to honor your in-laws. This is honoring our parents is a biblical command with no age limit. As we've seen, we're never too old to respect our parents. That is a lot like the husband-wife relationship, where God says to submit to, honor your husband, respect your husband. That's because of his position. Your parents have the same thing. You do not do this by speaking negatively about them to others and praying for them. No matter the relationship with your parents, if they are living, you should be praying for them, and you can still be respectful. Even if, there's hurt, there's trauma, there's things where you can't really be close, and maybe there's no contact, but that doesn't mean you have to be disrespectful, negative, always talking bad about them, telling everybody how horrible they are. That's just not needed, okay? So that's what I'm talking about, is you are still to honor them. So now let's go to your in-laws. If you are one flesh, that mother-in-law is now your mom too. And like I said, we've been married 13 and a half years. I do not call my mother-in-law mom. My husband doesn't call my parents mom and dad. Some of you guys do. It's great. If that's what works for you, that's fine. But that's just not where we are. And a lot of it for us, my mother-in-law and I, we didn't have that relationship at the beginning, but I still have my mom. So, I don't know, we just don't. It's not a thing for us. However, biblically, you can still be loving. You can still be kind and courteous and all those things. When you guys don't get along, it's hard, not just for you, not just for her, but for your husband as well. So I want to encourage you, and I know some people are just hard to get along with. That's where we were, okay? But I want to encourage you to try, for your own sanity, for your husband's sake, to follow the biblical commands of how people are to be treated, whether they're reciprocated or not. You know, she just might not like you, and nothing you do is going to change that. But that doesn't mean you need to be hateful and nasty to her. Matthew 5:44, but I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. Luke 6:22, for if ye love them which love you, what thank have ye? For sinners also love those that love them. We are called to love, not only to love those that love us back, because that's easy. That's not hard. Christ calls us to love as he does, which is hard, which is unconditional, which is even if it's not reciprocated. Because if you're saved, you have his love in you, and that is what's to be flowing out. You're not doing this on your own, in your own power, because it's not going to last. Because if she's hard, you're not going to be able to do this very long. It's commonly accepted and known that a mother-in-law is a difficult person. And if you tell someone that you actually get along with your in-laws, it's a surprise. And I just want to tell you, it should not be this way, okay? And I want you to think of your children. Are you going to be that difficult mother-in-law? I hope not. I hope you get along with your kids when they're grown, and their spouses and their children, and there's not this awful contention, okay? But you get to make that choice. No one can make that for you. It takes, the Lord's help, not being prideful, so this is part of just how we treat other people. It has taken a long time and many conversations and even an apology for my mother-in-law to get where we are here. It's been a work in progress the last 13 years. There have been some hateful conversations and comments, privately, publicly, Facebook, to other family members. I mean, the whole deal. We've been there. But it takes spiritual maturity and humility to admit when you are wrong. So this is something that you need to be praying about. And if you are wrong, if God points something out to you that says, hey, this is actually on you. Like, you need to fix this. You said this. You are looking at this wrong. You are being the difficult one. Just thank him for showing you that and accept it, okay? Be humble. Let go of your pride. Make the apology, whatever it is. I understand that it is not easy and it's not fun, and nobody wants to do that, and nobody wants to admit when they are wrong, but your relationship is going to be the better for it, okay? We both had done wrong in the relationship, my mother-in-law and I spent a long time justifying my actions and my thoughts and my attitude toward her because she wasn't easy and she deserved it. And I mean, did you hear the way she talked to me and about me and all these things? But that contention there actually brought about a comment that I'd made. We were talking one day, and this was 10 years ago. And I remember the conversation. I remember where I was sitting. I remember all the details. And I remember something that she had said. And I remember a thought that I had. Except it wasn't a thought. I actually said it out loud. And I did not know that for years. I did not realize I said it out loud. I remember thinking it. And I remember having that thought. And I really thought I was like, oh, well, okay. And I got up and walked away. I remember getting up and walking away. But that thought that I had, that wasn't very nice, came out. And that caused more division and actually caused some, it was a break in fellowship, my fellowship with the Lord. And I didn't know. I spent about 3 years in that quiet, in that separation from the Lord. That fellowship just wasn't there. And I remember praying and crying and asking God, whatever it is, I'll fix it. Whatever it is, I'll fix it. I just want the fellowship back. I want to be close to you again. And there were times that he didn't say that, didn't answer. And, he didn't show me what it was. And I think there was one time, we were actually living in Colorado at the time. My mother-in-law was here in Tennessee. And the Lord It kind of brought it to my attention, something to mind about it, about our relationship. And I remember thinking, this is just the way we are. Like, it's her fault too. What am I supposed to do with that? Like, she doesn't even like me. And I mean, can you imagine saying that to the Lord when he's like, hey, this is what you need to fix? And you're like, I'm not the problem. It's kind of what I did. And I didn't realize that was from him. I didn't realize, that was him saying, hey, you've asked for a solution and I'm telling you what's caused this. And so I let it go. I justified it rather than submitting to the Bible. And that broken fellowship continued on. But thanks to the Lord, we are in a much better place. And this, where we are now, is how things really should have been the whole time. And I can justify and excuse whatever, and I can put all the blame on her. But that doesn't make it right. And that doesn't excuse, how I was and acted and thought and treated her. And it doesn't do any good. It doesn't. And I still have a personal responsibility to the Lord, just like you do. Just like I talk about, in your marriage, too many wives say, well, if my husband did this, then I would that. It's not how God wrote the Bible. Well, the same is true in your other relationships, especially with your family, your mother-in-law. So if you are in the position of not getting along with your husband's family, I really want to encourage you to make this a matter of prayer. Whatever God brings to you, just ask him for his help with this. Pray about the relationship. Pray for your responsibility and role in the matter and for all the parties involved, okay? Do not live your whole married life at odds with the people that are really supposed to be the closest to your spouse. You are one flesh. This is now your family. This is not, living in contention is not God's design. I know the whole leave and cleave verses, and I get it, but using them to totally separate from and ignore your family is not biblically accurate. Not getting along with your in-laws puts your husband in the middle of the whole ordeal and causes unnecessary stress for everybody. So do all you can to be biblically accurate in these relationships. Your spouse will appreciate it, and your relationship with the Lord will not be hindered because of the strife in this area. It's hard for some of you, and I get that. And some of you, there just is no relationship. That doesn't mean that you can't pray for them still. And God is in the restoring business. God wants us to be close. And I understand we all have personal responsibilities. And if, the other person's not making the effort and, maybe there's drugs involved or abuse or something like that, I get that. So I'm not saying if they're abusive, then, oh, well, you need to be around them. I'm not saying that. But I am saying most of us have not the best relationship because of small, petty things. And, I mean, it's, some of my husband's family thought, we should not have been married to begin with. We weren't going to make it very long, so they didn't have to like me because I wasn't going to be around. He married down when he married me, and just the whole fact of like he shouldn't have, and it's probably not going to last, so oh well. There was no effort. There were very few people who put in the effort, and that's okay. If that's how they feel, there's nothing you can do about that except just be there, love your spouse, try to be part of the family, be kind, courteous. You still have a testimony to keep. And 13 and a half years later, here we are, still married, 2 kids, life's great. And I'm just part of the family now. There is no question of, is Heather coming, or, are Bobby and Heather okay? There's nothing like that. And, that pressure, that influence of knowing how they felt could have hurt our marriage. They, didn't think of it like that. It wasn't a concern to them. And that's okay. From the outside looking in, I get it. I mean, if you put in all of our past and the statistics and how old I was and all of that stuff into, some special calculator, it was really like a 3% chance that we were going to stay married. We should not have made it past year 3 statistically, but God. And as much as all of us have those but God stories of where God provided, God made a way, God protected, and it's by his grace we are where we are, it's still that same grace and provision that restores relationships. So we have to trust it. I don't trust God's grace just to maintain my marriage. It's for everything, because that's what he wants, especially if you're Christians. He wants unity. We are still of one body. Some of us misrepresent God, and we don't have the best Christian testimony, and we don't always act, as a Christian should. But that's what grace and forgiveness is for, right? So, and that's why we have the Holy Spirit, to convict us and show us that's not quite right, and we have to fix it. So I just wanted to share. I know it's hard. And like I said, I was there for 7 years, and I had my little boy. So the relationship with his grandma wasn't that great. And there was just tension all over. I mean, we visited, she lived about 2 hours away for the first few years of our marriage. So we would go visit, we'd go stay the weekend, but it was a chore. I was very uncomfortable. I don't know, I don't think that she meant to make me uncomfortable, but I just was. I knew there was tension. I knew she didn't approve, and it was hard. And I was very socially awkward and stuff anyway, so I was just completely uncomfortable. It was terrible. But if you have a relationship like that with your in-laws or even your parents, God can restore that. So just pray about it. Pray for those people. It's really hard to be upset with people you're praying for. It just is. That's just how God works. Trust him. If he brings something to your mind and your attention, he says, hey, I want you to fix this. Don't worry about what the other person has done. Trust God. Be obedient to him. If he says fix this, just fix it. If he says to do or not do something, just trust him. Don't worry about the rest of it. Just trust him. So until next time, stay in the word, stay close to the shepherd, and let him lead you in paths of righteousness.